And we're live.
We're live. Well done. Well done for everyone getting this ready and well together. I'd like to give a note to our sponsor, Loved Ones Forever. My name's Reggie.
I'm Fred.
Good to see you, Fred. Yeah. Why are we here, Fred?
We're going to do what men don't do, which is talk.
Yeah. Men don't talk.
This is the first episode of Men Don't Talk podcast, and today we're going to do just that. We're going to talk.
Okay, we're going to go over a few topics here. Yeah, we've had a week to think about this sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
We're talking about growing up as a boy to a man, what sort of pressures we're under, and kind of what we go through, you know. Depression, right? How to escape depression, yeah. And mental health, how to maintain your mental health. I think that's very close to you. I don't do none of what you do, but I do something totally different. This is probably different versions of it. And who looks after our mental health? You know, basically just topics about men don't talk about, you know.
Absolutely.
You did ask me a question before we said, like, would I rather be punched in the face to talk about my feelings? You know, I mean, I suppose really I do talk about my feelings a lot because being in recovery, but, you know, beforehand I'd probably like to be punched in the face instead of talking about it.
Yeah, I would say that you are an anomaly to that question. So if you ask most men what would they prefer, a punch in the face, as opposed to talking about their feelings, I suspect most men would say, I'll take a punch in the face.
What do men talk about?
So that's a subject of concern when a man turns around and says, do you know what, I would rather be punched in the face than actually talk about what's on my mind.
I mean, until I went into recovery, I couldn't really talk about much. I kept it to myself, you know, and it kind of just got worse and worse until a point, you know, I mean, I suffer with depression. You know, I suffered with depression quite a few times, actually. You know, it was kind of very dark, you know, very dark places. But, you know, I found that I couldn't really talk. I couldn't really talk to others. I felt ashamed. I felt that I was less than a man. What do you reckon on that?
I think that's what society deems a man to be present, powerful, strong, and able and willed. So there's a detriment when a man speaks out and says, "Well, this is how I'm feeling. I'm depressed, or I'm low, or I'm suicidal." In fact, because the suicidal rate, if we have a comparison between men and women. Men commit suicide substantially more than women. I mean, and I think that's a topic in itself.
I think that's is inherent from when we're younger, you know.
I believe.
Have you ever heard that saying, like, "Don't cry like a girl"?
Yeah, I believe it's kind of ingrained from an early age that you need to man up.
Big
so to
girls'
speak.
blouse.
It's ingrained from an early age.
You know, the amount of times that you go and like you get you fall over. You know, you see that the kid gets you see a kid get in the playground. You see a kid get fallen over. And
Boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry, and men don't talk. You know,
absolutely.
And it's sort of like when you're asking a kid, like sort of like when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in a family of girls, so you know there was not really that many people to talk to. My father. I didn't really know how to talk to him, you know, and it was you know, especially around subjects like, so as you're growing up, like, you know, unless you've got like a father figure there or someone to sort of like say, you know, this is the blueprint of being a man, you know, that gets really lost in translation. Yeah,
I think having a blueprint from an early age is essential. I mean, I never had a blueprint growing up. I wish I did. I never had that father who I could go and talk to, or give me directions, or say this is the way it should be. What response
would you get?
I never went down that direction.
So it kind of shut off.
It was shut off. It was shut off. I'm not entirely sure if that was from my perspective or my father. but it was always shut off. But I was never given a direction. I was kind of left to my own demise, so to speak.
I don't think I was ever pulled aside and had that chat.
Yeah, I think that
You know, like kind of like
that's it.
I mean, not being funny. I heard different things. You know what I mean? More comical around it. You know, like I didn't hear that stuff. You know, like you know, I thought I was going to get a girl pregnant by kissing her. You know what I mean? We never had. I thought I had a girl because I was kissing her, like because I'll kiss her, you know. And I like what it is. We had that thing in school called sex education, but when we was young, I mean, we was all just taking a piss. You know what I mean? We was all just kind of just joking around in there, you know. And by the time we come up to using condoms, I mean, I got a girl pregnant when I was 19. You know, so and I remember that fear, you know, of kind of getting someone pregnant at 19. I thought, fuck, you know, what am I going to do? You know, what am I going to do? I mean, I had enough problems. I was already kind of well into knowing how to change the way I feel because I'm an addict, you know what I mean? So I knew that, you know, and because we both got kind of similar but different stories, you know. But I don't think that chat ever come present. I tried to have it with my own son. You know, I tried to have that, but I was already in the destruction mode of my addiction to kind of channel that. You know, I mean, I give him the most appalling advice. To tell the truth. You know, but the thing is, how on earth could I give advice?
You couldn't advise yourself.
Well, what I've realised after working a 12-step was and still in a 12-step fellowship, but working a 12-step was that it's not their fault, because if they never had the tools, how on earth could they pass the tools on to me? You know, and it's all about that kind of, you said the blueprint. When I was issuing out that blueprint of how to live life, I had a day off, you know, and kind of I get that sort of like. So what I'm trying to say is, it started very young, you know. It started very young, and it kind of, you know, as I got older and older and older, the more I got involved in drink and drugs.
Progressive.
Yeah, well, the more my progression of the addiction took place, I found more comfort in taking that than it was to deal with my feelings.
Right, okay. When you say taking that, you mean using?
Yeah, using,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Because what it is, if I changed the way I felt,
yeah.
I didn't have to feel, you know, because everything else was kind of irrelevant, you know. So I would change the way I felt. And you know, and what happened was there was less communication. There was less connection. As I say, the opposite to addiction is connection, and I was slowly being disconnected. You know, so I mean, what do you think about kind of that kind of disconnect?
I think one it depends on the where you grew up and how you're housed, whether or not you're disconnected. And going back to a blueprint is great to have, but sticking to it is entirely different altogether.
That's why I found 12-step, because what 12-step did me, it gave me certain principles in my life, but I only found that out 4 years ago. You know, I was only given that nugget, you know, 4 years ago, and it wasn't from a father. So, you know, also as well, do you think it's important that we both have a mother and father in to grow up, or do you reckon?
Absolutely. I think having a two-parent household makes a massive difference in terms of how siblings grow up together, how they interact with each other, and just simple things. You know, for instance, I personally believe that men who come from single parents, mothers, which is happening more and more so because it's just how the world is panning out. They seem to struggle in life slightly more. And statistically, they end up in more prisons. They're committing crimes. They're doing things they shouldn't supposed to, and that's because they didn't have a father in the household, which is a two-parent household.
Why is that family nucleus been broken down? You know.
My personal opinion is society has said that a man is not needed.
A man's not needed.
A man is not needed because I mean I don't want to get into too much controversy, but a man is needed. A man is needed to for very, very simple reasons in a two-parent household. A child needs to see a father figure for one. And I read something the other day, or I watched something, I can't quite remember, and it was something as simple as the mother is nurturing, and that's fantastic, but the father is not as nurturing. So all that rough play, that chucking the child in the air and playing with him rough, that has a direct effect on how that child grows up. And that's the importance of something simplistic as that, as having a two-parent household.
Do you think that the gender stereotype? You sent me something the other day about the gender stereotype, and there was a list of, and one was coloured blue and one was coloured pink, and there was two lists. But I think it just generalises human beings, not actually having two columns and saying this is meant to be like this, this is meant to be like that. Because both a human being can be aggressive. A human being could be, what's the words in there, like not supportive or not easily scared or whatever you call. What's that got to do with it? I mean, see what it is as a man. I can get scared. I know what fear is. Fear for me is fuck everything and run. You know what I mean? Or face everything and remain. You've either got two of them things going on. Where we're told that we cannot fear. We have to stand in a line, you know what I mean, and be counted. What when the other saying is like when they say that a man has to step up to the plate. They're very, very harsh words, but I've heard them used quite a few times. That you know what, you've got to step up to the plate, mate. Do the right thing. But I'm thinking to myself, hold on a sec. There's loads of other things that are involved in doing the right thing. Restriction, access, peace of mind, all that type of stuff goes into that. You know what I mean? So when you're looking at kind of like step up to the plate, do the right thing,
Is that step up to the plate just for a man?
Well, yeah, I think that's only used as that. We spoke before about...
Sorry to interject. So, step up to a plate is for a man. So let's play devil's advocate. Give me what's the opposition of that?
Well, normally when that phrase is said to a man, step up to the plate, is normally when they've got to take on responsibility. Yeah, and fair enough. Look, okay, it's the responsibility of the parents to provide a loving and caring, nurturing environment. It's the responsibility of. I mean, I've got responsibility for for a lot of stuff myself, but then to get told to step up to the plate, is kind of a really demeaning, in itself. So when we're talking about stepping up to the plate, we're thinking like, hold on a sec, that's pressure. The reason, and there's another reason why I kind of I swayed into addiction is because I started taking on responsibility, and by the time I was 21, I had 2 children. Yeah, so the responsibility was piling in, and I'm thinking, shit. I was running a business. I'm thinking, oh no, what am I gonna do? And then I've got people saying you've got to step up to the plate, and I thought, aren't I doing enough? I'm trying, and that pressure there. It was far easier me to be a drug addict than it was to kind of, at least I had a reason for it. At least I had a reason. Well, he's ballsed it up because, he's out of his nut, And I mean, I didn't want to shirk responsibility. But the thing is, it comes back to that same question we first asked about, having that blueprint when we're growing up. It's really important, because a lot of kids have been brought up by their grandparents, yeah? and they've been brought up on old morals and old values, and they just don't work today.
They don't work. They do work.
Yeah.
They do work, but not now. Because we're in a completely different society. So
totally
those values and those morals, they work. And if they are here today, they still do work, but not in this modern society.
You would have to find a partner that had the same morals and values, and which is kind of really difficult because, you know, when someone gets brought up and they think, oh yeah, you know what, like I must go to work, and I've got a job and I've got to pay my bills, and you know I need to fall in love, or I need to have a relationship, you know, I need to have children, I need to go away on holiday, I need to have a car, I need to have a house, I need to provide. There's so much stuff.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. I mean, I can talk from personal experience. It is a lot. It is a lot.
I mean, I just run. You know, I just run a mile. But the thing is, I tried. Like, you know, it was all that that we call it sick and false pride. You know, and the opposite sick and false pride is humility. And you know, when I started getting humble, yeah, my life started changing. You know. And obviously, I've had a long road. I mean, some of the things we will talk about is like depression and maintaining mental health. You know, because all this stuff is detrimental to our mental health. You know, if we can't put ourselves in it, we've got no one to talk to. You know, that's why as well when you're talking about the male suicide rate is so high up there. Yeah,
it's massive because there's no one talking about things. I think we discussed it before when women get in groups, they talk about anything and everything, whether it's fashion or, you know, or what's happening in each other's lives. They have the ability to express it, and all their emotions and these pent up, and everything that's pent up, they vent.
Do you reckon that gets brought up like the way we're nurtured as a child? Like, I mean, I was given a plastic gun, yeah, you know, a bow and arrow and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I was given all that stuff. You know, when my son was growing up.
What, did you want a Barbie?
Well, no. But when my son was growing up, I bought him an Hoover. You know, like an Hoover, and he loved it. Yeah. But the thing is, you know, he loved it. He loved going around with the Hoover, and I bought him that. Yeah. And but the thing is, I've got 4 sisters, so there was a lot of girl stuff. It was all girl stuff. You know what I mean? And what it is, I was into going out in the garden and getting muddy. You know, digging holes. You know, climbing trees, smashing things up, you know, like kind of dismantling stuff, you know, painting cat boxes with my dad's paint for his van, you know. Oh God, thought I'd done well, you know. Go out. But the thing is, it's all this stuff. So what it is, so we've established that if, like, maybe someone could, like, you know, other people can debate on this, but I would like to take it further because what it is, how can that change? What can change? Yeah. I don't think there's no overall solution because we're talking about a big demographic of people, loads of men, you know. But how can that change? You know, what can we teach our children how to talk more to our father or get something like that back in, or what?
I don't think that there's a change. I think there's just guidance and having a support network. I think we discussed on the last occasion, having a support work of people around you. I think it's never going to change. A man is supposed to be a man, and it'll always be dictated like that in society. A man is born to earn his value, as opposed to having inherent value from the get-go. So it's always going to be like that, and it's always going to be the same.
But also, look at this though. I would just chuck this one in there. So say, for instance, this, yeah, like when I grew up, like my granddad was always old. Yeah, our granddads were old, right? Yeah, and but nowadays granddads are pretty groovy.
I mean, you'll be one, so you are one.
I've got 4 grandchildren.
There you go.
I've got 4 grandkids. So I'm not being funny. Like, when you look at that, yeah, would the guidance come from the grandparents or what? I mean, because what it is, the guidance has got to come from somewhere. It can't come from the schools because at the moment, the way the schools are going, it's just a totally different...
Let's not talk about the schools.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but the way they go, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't even know what you're going to get with that. You know? You understand what I mean? Because they can make decisions for our children, you know, without even telling us.
Yeah. I mean, touching on, but you're taught to be powerful as a man. You're taught to have, well, not taught. It's just how it is. And you mentioned pressure, and I put that in correlation to responsibility. And responsibility is supposed to give us meaning in life. So I think there's a double-edged sword with some of that pressure and responsibility, because if you are responsible, that gives your life some source of meaning. But there's always there's always a fine line between being too harsh on yourself. I think some men need to be kind to themselves rather than being too harsh. And when you've got that responsibility, it can become very, very much overwhelming. And I can talk from experience. And you get to a place where you feel lost and you don't necessarily have an outlet or somewhere to vent, and that responsibility, if you don't look at it as in this is giving me a meaning or a purpose, then you're just gonna have this big
Give me an example of that feeling lost.
A feeling of
like when you just mentioned that, like you felt lost. So give me an example.
A feeling of loss is not getting out of bed. It is going back to sleep. Just waking up and seeing that it's 12 in the afternoon and thinking, I want to go back to bed. I don't want to fucking get up. I want to go back to bed, back to sleep, because I want it to be the next day. That's where there's
is that coupled up with depression?
That's coupled up with everything. But earlier in my life, I thought I didn't really kind of believe in depression. I'm still on the sidelines, because I think depression sometimes is used as an excuse. And I also think.
What do you mean excuse?
Well,
what do you mean by?
Well, I can't do that because I'm depressed. I'm not. I could have woke up today and said, I'm not coming here because I'm depressed, and that would have been an excuse.
Yeah.
But in reality, just like anything, so if I stab you in the leg and that's pain, that's your body saying, oh shit, there's a knife in me, I better get rid of it and do something. And it's got similarities with depression. If I feel a certain way, I need to get off of my arse. I need to do something. If I feel a certain way.
Yeah, but where do you... I mean, for me, it was like... I remember an incident. Like, it was an instance. It was, as you know, I've kind of... suicide is kind of really close to where I've been at certain times in my life. And that was through depression that I ended up doing that. Yeah, so I remember one time I'm sitting there and I'm looking out the window, and it literally like 48 hours had passed and I've barely moved from that spot. And I remember just sitting there, day turned into night, night turned into day, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? And I didn't. There was no enthusiasm. I felt at that present moment that I was just existing.
So at that time, in my opinion, that's your body saying
I wasn't living, I was existing. And
that's your body saying, you know what, you fucked up. You fucked up. You need to do something about it.
No, there was nothing there.
No, but that's what inside.
My response was totally different. My response was, I'll tell you what I would do. I will take all my tablets and I will die. Yeah. That was it, because I never had no one to pick up the phone and go, hey, you know what, I really feel like this, because I never had no one to talk to.
Yeah.
Do you know, say for instance, and then I speak to people many like moons after, and I speak to them and they go to me, why don't you call me? I think to myself, that wasn't an option. Yeah? That wasn't an option. I didn't want to burden you. Absolutely. I didn't want to lay it on you. I thought my problems, I didn't want to give you my problems. Yeah? And depression for me, I've been diagnosed with depression a few times, and it's kind of I had people turn around and say, just get on with it, just get on with it. I had one person turn around and say, I've been more depressed than you, ever have, and I got over it, so can you. And I thought, what encouragement is that?
Well, I think,
and that was from a woman, that was from a woman. that turned around and told that. And if you look at our gender stereotypes, that is definitely not a gender stereotype. You know, I think it was one on the list, and I think myself, oh God, you know, I remember when I was told that, just get on with it, and I thought myself, I've failed.
Puts you back in the black hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fouled, and them words resonated me all the way through to another attempt on my life, and it's kind of that depression for me, and that not being able to talk to someone was kind of so. Well, now it's part of my message, you know, that kind of, you know what, I had something on my side, do you know what I mean? I had something on my side, and I thought, you know, it was whatever it is, you know, I mean, I don't believe in God, but I know there's a power greater than me, that sort of stuff, you know. I know there's plenty things that was on my side, but the thing is, at that particular moment, I was totally lost.
Powerless.
I was on my own. I was lost, you know, and I couldn't find no way out. And I remember I stayed in a addiction for another 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and it was absolute the darkest hell I've ever been in, because I knew at that present moment that, you know what, I was going to die an addict. You know, I knew I was going to die. So the thing is, even then, I never had no one to speak to. You know, even throughout all that time, I kind of, it was such a. I know the difference between being alone and lonely. I was lonely. I wasn't alone because I never had no other outlet, you know. And how'd you get on with depression and talking?
I think depression in itself, I think, is a marker that something's not quite right. You need to do something, as we all know. Having a support network is important. So
Did you have one?
No.
So how's that going to work then?
No.
You know, I mean, not in front of...
No.
How's it going to work?
I mean, I do have a support network. I can pick up the phone to people that, you know, 4 or 5 people. I can pick up the phone and I can say, how are you? And sometimes that's all it takes to have a conversation. How are you? And sometimes the other person on the phone, that's what they need to hear, because maybe they're in the same situation as you, because you never know what kind of battle someone is going through.
Have you heard that? So I get asked this a lot, like, all right is not a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, like when someone says to me, they go, like, how are you, Reggie?
Yeah, funny
people,
that.
People go, yeah, I'm all right. Everyone goes, yeah, I'm all right.
How are you? Okay.
But where I come from now, especially today, when someone says to me, how are you feeling? I go, well, this morning, I felt grateful, yeah. I was disappointed halfway through the day because something happened to me. And I was angry. I was very angry. But you know what? I calmed myself down, and I realised I was hungry. So I had some food, and now I feel stuffed. So I feel guilty. But the thing is, it's only because I've done the work on myself that I've been able to communicate that.
Yeah, I do think that a support network is very, very important, and not everyone's willing to not willing. Not everyone has that support network. And I think going back to depression, it's vital that you take certain steps to get out of it. And most of those steps begin with you. So identifying that you're feeling low, or you're in a dark place, and identifying it and taking some kind of action to get yourself out of it.
How do you do that?
Numerous ways. Taking care of myself, eating healthy, get your lazy ass in the gym, talk to people, toxic people, remove them out of your life, and then you'll start getting somewhere. You know, you need to start taking action with yourself first, and identify that, you know, I'm not feeling good.
Where did you get that direction from?
Myself.
You got it from yourself.
Yeah, myself. A lot of me. What keeps me mentally active and sane is being physical. So I've got an outlet, so to speak. So going to the gym, staying active, that's massive for me. And I think.
So where did that idea come from? I mean, obviously we've spoken about not having the tools, yeah, and we've excused like like basically not being shown the way because they wasn't shown the way. So now you're talking about going to the gym. So you must have like seen that, heard it, you know,
felt it. So felt
yeah,
it.
I mean, you must have felt that and thought myself, because look, we've got two totally different physicalities.
I mean, you're yeah. I mean,
I'm built for comfort. You're built for speed. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah. I mean, like, I've got a dad bod.
Yeah,
you know, but I'm a dad.
If I'm ever feeling
I'm a
low,
dad. I've got a dad bod.
if I'm feeling low, for my
yeah. But what I'm trying to ask is, where did you like all of a sudden you just woke up one day and went, bam! I'll tell you what I do. I'll go to the gym.
No, it didn't work out. It did not work out like that for me. I went to the gym first and foremost because I broke up with. I had a breakup and went to the gym and that was no. I had a breakup. I was very, very sad. And this is going back maybe 12 years ago. I was very sad, and someone said go to the gym. So I went to the gym and I thought this is amazing. I feel really, really good, and it filled a hole. So that was not everyone gets to that point. This was just a passing suggestion. Go to the gym, keep yourself active.
Yeah.
And this I wasn't depressed at that point. I was just sad. It was my first love, and she cheated on me and done the dirty.
So how did
she
you?
She belongs to the streets.
How did you feel?
And then it progressed from there. So I knew that was for me. I knew that going to the gym and staying active was good mentally from that point onwards. So that was something I had to continually do. And each time I've fallen into a depressive state or not being happy, that's my outlet. And I go there and I come out and I feel great. And I go home and I eat healthy, and I'll talk to people, abstain from drugs, alcohol, because the drugs and alcohol are the two things that people turn to when they're in that depressive state. And if you can abstain from doing that, then you're on the right road at least. So if you don't want to go, not everyone wants to go to the gym, and that's fine. You don't have to. Stay at home. Work on some self-development. Pick up a book, you know.
Is it as easy as that? Do you understand? Because remember, we're talking about your particular story, and then you're going like, it sounds really, really simple.
That can sound really, really simple, but is it simple? No. If you want to make a change, it can be as simple as making those decisions. If you want to make a change, it can be as simple as making those decisions. But it's the mental gymnastics that you play with yourself, and whether you're willing to come out of that dark state and do something about it. That's where it differs between staying in a dark state and taking yourself out of it. And there are lots of things you can do, but it's dependent on whether that person wants to do it or not.
Yeah, I find walking, for me, kind of
and that's physical.
Because
you can only walk.
Yeah, what do you mean I can only walk?
I can't see you running.
What do you mean I can run?
But the thing is, I
don't even own a tracksuit.
No.
But the thing is, I've got one pair of trainers, and I don't even own a tracksuit. But walking for me is something I can do.
It's an outlet.
Yeah.
And you're not in the gym. You're not in the gym doing weights. And like I said, not everyone has to go down that route. Not everyone, because there's this whole stigma that I've seen around.
Yeah, but sometimes I look at the gym. For me, is a bit pretentious and a bit like kind of look at this and look at that. And for me as well, with my nature of kind of doing things repeatedly over and over again, I don't want to fall into that thing where I can't stop doing it. You understand what I mean? I can't even play solitaire on my phone, and I can't even play that on my phone. And I was outside earlier, and someone was playing it in their car, and they goes to me, "You know how to play this, don't you, Reg?" And I thought, oh no, here I go. And I knew exactly what it was like. Kind of, I mean, it wouldn't make me go. I haven't relapsed on solitaire, but I get the game, and you understand what I mean? It's like I will do things over and over again. That's what I know from doing how I've worked through my depression. I mean, I haven't had a depressive episode for about 4 years, about 3 years, 10 months, 3 years, 11 months. I haven't had a depressive episode, or 11 months, 10 months. And I found that for me, it was a little bit dramatic, you know. I come to the end of a 36-year addiction, and I've been depressed quite a few times, and I kind of had this horrendous night, where I ended up falling in front of a bus, and you know, and I decided that night that kind of I could not do this anymore, you know. I thought to myself I couldn't do it anymore, and I was kind of I didn't know what to do. I had that lost feeling again, you know. I couldn't find my way out. And this is another thing with men. I can't find my way out. And I speak to other men and they don't even know where, like, the direction. I think sometimes it's about kind of, I wish someone just steered me in the correct way as opposed to me stumbling into it, you know. I never just woke up. I think it was the 15th of December, 2018. I never just woke up that day and thought, I tell you what, you know, after today, I'm never going to take a drink or drug again. I mean, because that wasn't the story. It took me about 11 days. I was kind of like, but I knew it. I knew that if I carried on using one, I'll end up either dead, either in jail or in a mental institution, because I felt like I was going insane at that particular moment, you know. So it was just, for me, it was like a guidance. I knew someone. And I said to him, he said to me, you're fucked. And I said, yes, I am. He said, do you want help? And I said, yes, please. You know, and for me, it's like, I never felt like I'll tell you what, I'll go running around the block. You know, I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? And I ended up going into a 12-step fellowship for the first time. And this is how I ended up finding out a lot about myself. I identified with feelings, you know. I identify with my feelings a lot better today than I did 4 years ago, because I've managed to open the Pandora's box and let everything come out without feeling fear. You know, instead of that, I face everything and remain, and I stay. You know, so what it is with depression, I've met people that have been many years clean and sober, and they suffer depression. I've already been down the tablet route, so I know where that takes me. I know I can't take them, you know, so I have to find something else. I maybe go into fitness, you know, I might even try that. I mean, look, I'm 50 years of age, yeah. I mean, I've got an active job, right? But the thing is, fitness for me is like, kind of, really, do I have? It sounds so much like hard work, and this is another thing. It is
hard work.
I know, but recovery is hard work for me.
I think for you, your fitness regime is mental fitness.
Yeah, I've got mental fitness. I'm mentally fit,
and that's fine.
You can't have everything, can you?
Yeah,
I mean, you can't have everything. I mean, come on, imagine that. I'll be like superhuman, wouldn't I?
And that's fine. As I said, there's different routes to.
So you're physically fit, and I'm mentally fit.
Yeah. I mean, there's different
what
routes.
Are you saying?
Different routes, different people.
I mean, I'm just talking about my journey. You're just talking about yours. But like, does that all come back to like where we like kind of the original thing where you know, we're always searching, aren't we? You know?
I think.
Have you found what you're looking for in fitness?
There's not an end goal.
I mean, where's your end goal with fitness? What's that like?
There's not an end goal. That just keeps you mentally up and running.
Yeah, but you're physically, and I'm mentally. So
having the physicality keeps me mentally sane. And if I don't, if I didn't go to the gym, I would probably, you know, take that out on someone else.
So what you're saying, that anger comes into that as well.
Yeah. I would take
being angry.
I would take that stuff that's built up inside, and I would have to vent that on someone else. And when I say vent, that's an act of violence. for me. So
yeah, there was a guy called John Bradshaw. He's dead now, and he said that when you look at someone and you say to them, "Look at that angry person over there," you've got to take the person out of that word because they cease to be human when they're being angry. You know, you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And but the thing is, this is another thing as well. When you get brought up, we get brought up to if you get beaten up, get up and have a fight. Yeah. You know. So if you get taught that, if you get taught that and that's repeatedly drummed into you, like where does that go? You know, that carries on into adult life.
Yeah, it can.
And that's where the real damage is done. It's all right being a child running around like a loony, but the thing is, when you start, I mean, when I was a kid, I was a loony.
I was too.
I know, I was an absolute loony.
I used to go window smashing. I used to throw paint over people's houses.
We used to do all that sort of stuff.
Sometimes I've got a friend, and I've been friends with him for a long time, and sometimes I will send a message and I will say we were sick fucks. We used to go around smashing people's windows.
I mean, how would you like if someone?
And throwing stones at cars, and I thought, fuck, I was a right shit. And I thought, do they still do that now? Well, I don't think they do. So what I'm getting at is that
they still do, yeah, because they still do.
Or do they go around to smashing windows?
Of course they do.
And you know,
of course they do.
Maybe I just
the amount of times you come
out,
you get old age pensioners slashing tyres nowadays.
Let alone it's got an able.
You know.
But I was just thinking.
Old age pensioners,
obviously, the generations have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is clear to see.
Do you think that's a good thing? That
I think it's terrible. We're in a world of snowflakes. You can't say anything without offending someone.
Does that sound worse coming from a man not being able to say anything? Are you constricted to say what you're going to say?
Well, let's put it this way: a man can offend someone a lot quicker than a woman.
Yeah.
Because it's just we get it a lot harsher. So in terms of being offensive, in order to have free speech, you need to be able to express yourself openly. Now, if you're put into a box and you can't express yourself openly because you're scared of offending someone, where does that leave you? It leaves you with a lot of pent-up emotions, a lot of subjects that you can't discuss. Whether they provide controversy.
Because I've had situations when I've been talking to women and I've been honest, and they turn around and say, well, I'm just talking about my own honesty, and they own it, you know, like it's theirs. And I think to myself, what's going on? Can't I say anything?
Yeah.
You know? And the thing is, like, if I'm being honest, like, I've been taught to be honest. You know, honesty is a very valuable thing for any human being to be. But, you know, if my own, like, honesty offends someone, yeah, to a point where they don't like it, and then they start insulting you about that, where do we go with that? You know, and the thing is, it comes down to that thing, is like, if I can't say this to anybody, how can I say it to? Like, who can I say it to?
Apart from in a conversation that you say to yourself.
Yeah, but how about if that because the dialogue I used to have with myself, and I still have the same dialogue today, and we cover that when we come to the the mental side of it, the mental health. Like, I used to have this dialogue inside my brain. I used to hate myself. Yeah.
It's in a conversation.
I used to go like, you are crap. You're not worth nothing. No, you know, you've got no value. I used to devalue myself, and I still do sometimes today, because I have to bring myself back into what I've been taught, back to that blueprint that I've rediscovered, and with that all kind of bowls up with the depression, because my internal dialogue when I was depressed was appalling. The way I spoke to myself in my head was appalling. You know, you think yourself like, kind of, do you hear voices in your head? Well, whoever's in my head, yeah, was appalling.
Yeah, the worst conversation you can have is with yourself.
Yeah.
That's the worst conversation you can have.
And the only person that will never abandon you is yourself.
Is yourself. And,
you know, so, you know, you have...
But then the only person who can save you is yourself.
Yeah. So really, like, what is a man?
Very good question.
What is a man? So, do you feel constrained to a degree?
I think what is a man? It's a very, very loaded question. It depends who's asking it, and if you're asking what is a man, it's someone who's, I think we've gone through it before, someone who's stable, powerful.
If a man was your friend,
money.
what do you expect?
But I'm speaking from a society's point of view of what is a man.
There's many billions of people there.
So society's point of view, what is a man? Well, a man is someone who's stable, who's financially okay.
Why is that important?
It isn't.
Why is it important?
It isn't, because between me and you, I don't care.
Is it important that a man can identify with his feelings, or does it? Is it that ingrained in us?
Oh, it's very ingrained.
Yeah, is that ingrained in us? That kind of integrity, trust, loyalty, reliability. As a friend, I would like that whether he's a man or a woman.
Of course.
But the thing is, when you feel sometimes that, I've got a daughter and I've got 3 sons, and I've got 4 sisters. So I've kind of got a cross section of genders around me, like kind of different male and female, and I for me, it's important that I know about my feelings. I can't talk for you. It's important that I can identify, but does it matter? No,
I think it's all. It depends if you're asking as what is a man as an individual, or what does everyone else perceive a man to be. And I think mainly it's deemed as responsibility. Responsibility.
Do you think that you've been listened to or heard?
No, because I haven't spoken enough. So I haven't spoken enough, and it brings. Well, that's another thing. Like men don't talk because you can't. There's no one listening if I'm not speaking.
Do you feel like it's like kind of like, say for instance, you go to the doctor and you turn around and say to the doctor, "Look, doctor, I've got this thing wrong with me, and I've got this problem, and I would love to talk about it, but you've only got 12 minutes, so you've got to try and pick up the courage to kind of bring it forward." Do you think that where women are more vocal about kind of where their problems are, they get listened to a little bit more?
Absolutely. It's not that they're listened to more. I think with women,
explain it better.
They explain it better, and women are more interested in people, and men are more interested in things, and that's just how we're wired.
Yeah.
So if we look at it from that standpoint, then women are inevitably going to be able to express themselves more because they're more about people, and from that standpoint, they're able to express themselves, and whatever they want to speak about, they can get out. Where men are more concerned about
men change
things.
If men change, would they change?
Men aren't going to change.
They're not going to change.
They're not going to change. This is how we're hardwired.
Yeah, but there's examples of men thinking they can change. Look at the whole change of reverse roles.
This is the change in society.
But look at the reverse role where you get like a man takes care of the kids, and the woman goes out to work.
Backwards.
Yeah, but that's backwards. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said to me about it's evidently clear that men get paid more money than women. I said, where? There's no such thing as that. I mean, I'm going off topic.
I mean, I could debunk that hardcore, but I won't even bother. It's been debunked so many times.
Say, for instance, you take a supermarket, and you've got a line for a check here. The man doesn't get more money than the woman. They all get the same. They all get the same amount of money for their age and their ability. Yeah. So a female manager gets the same as a male manager. Yeah.
Okay. If we're going off topic and we talk on that, so you mentioned. Did you mention about men staying at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you feel if you had a child and your girlfriend or wife said, "Well, I want to go to work. I want you to look after the children." How would you feel?
Demasculated. Yeah.
That the world's gone backwards.
Yeah, that's right. I would feel demasculated
Because the world has gone backwards.
Yeah, but in some cases, Fred, that works. You know, in some families that seems to work. But the thing is, how's that going to work?
That's the 1%.
How's it going to work?
That's the 1% working. But you traditionally, because these traditional values are what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, because the children are going to be taught them values, aren't they?
Yes.
So the children will grow up and think, right, okay, it's okay.
It's okay for me to stay.
It's okay if mum goes out to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay if mum goes out to work, right?
And dad stays at home, so I can do that when I grow up.
Yeah.
So these traditional values, if they're not taught from a standpoint from an early age, the generations to come are going to feel that these standards that are being set are standards that they can implement in their life. So let's say, you'd say, for example, let's go into a magical world. You have a son, and he sees you at home, and you're at home while mum's out of work. That's then deemed as okay. I don't deem that as okay. That's not okay. Might do. That's not okay for me.
Stuff,
if I have a child,
that's their bag, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not your bag.
This is just my stuff. I don't deem that acceptable. If I have a child, I'm going to go out and I'm going to work my fucking arse off and bring the bread back, and she can stay at home, and that's how it is, and that's how it's been for years and years and years and years.
But I don't mind looking after children. When I had a chance to, I loved it.
Yeah, but then again,
your
role was to go out. Your role was to go out. Yeah. But you was in another world anyway. But your role was to go out and provide, and as you mentioned just earlier, emasculated. Demasculated.
Demasculation of male. Does that come in from, instead of that, like, taught more nurturing skills? But how does that work if a boy doesn't want to do that and says, "I want to play with my tank. I don't want to play with a doll"?
I think that's a subject that we could speak on for hours and hours and hours. But
like, as I say, who's responsible for looking after your mental health?
I think we can all agree that you are responsible for you, and you will take care of you better than anyone else. Yeah,
because they say, like, I'm not responsible for my addiction, but I'm responsible for my recovery, So the thing is, like, responsibility. See, we've got, like, you do something different, I do something different, and we kind of, we both kind of work on this mental health, This, because do you know what's funny? To someone to say as a human being, like, there's no kind of such thing, like, that. Just get on with it. You know what I said earlier? Just get on with it and kind of just get on with that.
Don't get me wrong, it sometimes can be a good thing. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
But do
you know what? If someone would have said that to me when I come into recovery, just get on with it, I think I would have punched him in the eye. Or punched him in the front.
Sometimes it's a good just get on with it.
Yeah. Do you know what people did say?
You've got to put it in different contexts where you're saying these things.
Yeah.
Just get on with it, man up. And things like you've got to put these into context, and what they really mean. Man up is a good one. It's an interesting one. It just means shut the fuck up. And get on with it.
That's used a lot in the armed forces, isn't it?
Yeah, get man up.
It's used a lot in the armed forces. to push people forward. Charge forward. You know what I mean? All that sort of stuff. And the kind of. Do you know, also as well, I've got a very valid point here. Say, for instance, after the Second World War, my grandfather in particular, he come back so shut down, so shut down. So, we spoke about that blueprint and a lack of skills. So if their fathers wasn't taught the skills or shut down around their skills, how on earth could they teach that? What it is, I've been taught not to look at my parents and say, like, okay, they have the reason, because they're not the reason, They're not the reason for my mental health, and they're not the reason why I'm clean today. But the thing is, like, growing up, in in a house full of girls, I did feel a lot of pressure. You know, I knew I was different. You know, I knew I was very different. But the thing is, it was like you know, but the thing is, we touched on quite a lot. We touched on like that first nurturing stuff. You know, because that's really important. You know, like when we're growing up, you know, it's really important to have a healthy, stable home life. But then also as well, my stable home life broke down when I was in my early teens, and it kind of devastated me. You know, absolutely devastated me, because all of a sudden there was no direction, and I felt again lost. So I felt lost on quite a few occasions growing up, and I never, as I say, it was another thing. Couldn't talk, you know.
I think that goes back to looking after yourself. And I mentioned having a support network earlier. You can have a support network, but you're the person who's picking up that phone to make the call. You're looking after yourself, and it starts with you. So, who's responsible for your own mental health? Well, that's you. And if you're gonna sit down and take it lying down, you're gonna stay in that devastating.
I think both men and women go into a punch bag and punch life out of a bag. You know what I mean? They do that. You know what I mean? They go, bah, 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 bah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, because aggression is a feeling, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's a response. Aggression is a response to anger. Yeah. You know, you get angry, aggression, and then you get the physicality side around it. So you got all that there. Yeah. You know, did you find when you were punching the bag, yeah, right? Because I used to, like that, yeah. You find when you was punching the bag that let go of all that stuff.
It's required.
It's required.
It's required. Yeah, it's required. I mean, I can only talk from my perspective. It's required, and that's.
I mean, how do you feel when you push the limit? You know, do you know when you push the limit? I mean, you're just recovering from an injury.
Yeah, I tend not to push the limits because I'm sewn up. For anyone I don't know, I've got snapped about 4 tendons.
Yeah, is that because you're pushing it?
And just touching on that, when each injury I've gone through has been a fucking dark place. Yeah, each injury is a dark place, and no one knows how dark that is. And I can't begin to explain how dark it is because I just can't be bothered. And when I say dark, I mean the physicality of it. When I snapped the tendon on my hamstring, I couldn't walk for 6 months. Dark time.
Have you heard that saying, big boys don't cry?
Yeah, and I didn't cry. Yeah. No, I did.
I mean, I cried a month ago.
And it was a dark time for me because I relied heavily so much on being physical and being active. When that was taken away from me, I just went into a very, very dark place. And I didn't talk to anyone, and I just dealt with it by myself. Should I have spoken to someone? Yeah, probably.
But what would you say?
Probably.
I mean, look, could you just come out and say it? Like, I'm in a place where I can just say what I want, you know?
Yeah. It's tricky whether you can pick up the phone and you can say what you really want to say. So you got like big boys don't cry.
So
in answer to your question, I am responsible for me.
Yeah.
I go to the gym. I set up my network of people. I ensure that toxic people are not around me, and that's my responsibility. And I ensure that I don't do drugs or alcohol, and that's my responsibility. And you need to take control of certain aspects to ensure that you stay afloat.
Yeah.
So for what I would say, if you're feeling down or depressed, get your ass up and get to the fucking gym.
And what I would say that, you know, if you've got a problem, see if you can talk to someone about it. Because if you can't talk to someone, well, I always say if I don't sort my shit out, my shit will sort me out. You know, and it's really important because whether you're going to go down that rabbit hole or go down them routes of kind of trying to deal with your, like, I mean, look, any pressure, any problem, you know, try to talk to someone at least, you know. And if you can't, there's loads of different forums and chats and stuff like that you can actually talk. Don't feel afraid. Don't feel scared, you know. And I think it's okay if you feel, you know. For me, it is. I'm in that place. That's all, you know.
It's okay to talk.
Yes, men,
Men don't talk.
Well, we did
We
today.
did today.
You know, that's good. You know, we'd like to say a big thanks to our sponsor, Loved Ones Forever. And, you know, and if you can't talk, try to talk. You know, it's a good thing. We'll leave it there. Goodbye.
Goodbye.